The United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting over Russia's reported military intervention on Thursday. CCTV's Liling is live at the UN in New York. Liling, what's the sentiment among members? I heard what Samantha Power had to say, some pretty strong statements from the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
Yes, indeed. We heard echoes of condemnation at the most and concerns at the very least from most members of the Security Council over reports of intensifying violence, as well as accusations of a Russian military invasion. And as you said, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, was the most critical of Russia's actions and lashed out at Russia, saying that this is the 24th session that the Council has been holding over the Ukraine crisis and its attempts to try to rein in Russia's aggression in the conflict, and that every one of these sessions, Council members have tried to send out a unified message that Russia must stop this conflict. She said Council members had said that after Russia occupied Crimea, after the downing of MH17, and after Russian tanks fought alongside separatists. She said, however, that Russia had not listened and had repeatedly skirted the issue, obfuscated it, or outright lied about its role in the conflict. Russia, as expected, pushed back on these accusations and instead accused the United States in particular and the West in general of themselves interfering in the Ukrainian conflict, and also called into question the presence of hundreds of what he said were hundreds of American military and non-military experts in Ukraine, and asked what they were doing there. And at the end also of his address to the Council, he also proposed that Council adopt a resolution calling for a ceasefire.
Liling, is there anything specific the UN Security Council is doing to curb this crisis? It seems like there's been meeting after meeting, but really little has been done to improve the situation on the ground.
Yes, it's really quite a frustrating process here, but this is an organization of diplomacy, and we're seeing a lot of pressure coming from different members of the Security Council, but also from the Secretary General. Earlier this session, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon had called on parties to stem the bloodshed, as well as the continuation of talks that were held this week by both presidents to continue these negotiations towards a resolution. But stronger action can be taken. Now, sanctions, for example, is something that the French representative said is a possibility to increase sanctions on Russia. However, that's not in the best interest of Russia or anyone else for that matter, he noted. And sanctions, of course, can also be vetoed by Russia, which is a permanent member on the Security Council. But there is one way to push for stronger action against Russia. The Security Council can take, under Chapter 6 resolution, can take the case to the General Assembly and force Russia to abstain from voting if it can prove that Russia is party to this conflict. But that would be an extraordinary measure.
All right, thank you so much, Liling.